Welcome everyone. Parshat Shavua Shir, brought to you by Be There Israel and Or Chadash. So we'll do a little advertising here. Just have a new music CD. I don't know if anyone can see this, but it just came out on Sunday, and most of you who are watching this probably are connected to our email, our website, so you'll see it. And it's just in time for Hanukkah. So Jonathan here, no one can see him, but Jonathan here played bass. And we have 15 of the best Jewish musicians in the world on it. Shlomo Katz, Chaim David, Tali Abramson, Raz Hartman, Shirley Solomon, Nachman Solomon, and many others. So, and of course Jonathan here, who we mentioned already. So I'll share with you a new niggin because it just came out literally yesterday. And I was just so happy. A niggin just came down. So I will share it with you. Could you tell I was happy? Okay, tonight we're learning Parshat Vayishlach. Absolutely one of the deepest parshas in the whole Torah. But we could say that about every parsha, but this parsha is particularly full of meaning and symbolism and eternal eternal strength. Okay, so we're going to try to do 3 things tonight. We're going to look at the wrestling match between Yaakov and blank. We're going to fill in the blank. Yeah. Yes. This shiur should be for Refuah Shlema for Chana Bat Naomi. Nomi should have Refuah Shlema. And I'm really glad you reminded me, because literally one of Reb Shlomo's first students left the world last week, and he was buried yesterday. And his name was Yitzhak Isaac ben Azriel Mordechai. So this learning we do tonight should be an aliyah to neshama for Yitzhak Isaac ben Azriel Mordechai, who he literally was with Reb Shlomo from song 1, all the ways through. We should have an aliyah to neshama. Okay, so again, we're going to look at the archetypal battle between Yaakov and the forces aligned against him. And we're going to try to see it through the lens of the word Yisrael. Because we know as a culmination of the wrestling match, so Yaakov is given a new name, Yisrael, which we are called to this day. So when I said that this is one of the deepest parshas in the Torah, is because something monumental happened that evening to bring down this name Yisrael that the entire Jewish people is called by ever since. And then at the end we're going to discuss the end of the parsha. It's a part of the parsha that many people just read and don't pay it any mind, because it doesn't seem to be saying anything of tremendous import. But we're gonna see that in Kabbalah that this is actually one of the most important portions in the entire Torah. Okay, so we'll start with the wrestling match. The context that leads up to it is, at the end of last week's parsha, Yaakov Avinu leaves Lavan with his wives, his children, and he's coming back to Israel. In the beginning of the parsha, it says he sends messengers to Esav, because the confrontation that he has been, in a sense, avoiding for 20 years is inevitable now. He's coming back to Eretz Yisrael, and he left running away from Esav, who wanted to kill him. And now the time has come for this archetypal confrontation. And so he's told that Esav is coming towards you with 400 men, and Yaakov is fearful, and he does 3 things. And this is the model of Jewish politics ever since. He sent gifts to Esav to try to make peace. He prayed, and he prepared for war. And we're told that Ada Yom Hazeh, until this day, nothing has really changed as far as the proper advice for the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, is that we try to make peace genuinely, we prepare for war, and we pray. And this is in this parsha. I mean, certain of these ideas we could spend the whole parsha on, but I'm just mentioning them. And then Yaakov takes his family, he splits his family in two. He says because if Esav attacks one camp, at least the other one will be able to get free. And then it says that he took everything and he brought them over what's called Ma'avar Yabok. This is in verse 23 in chapter 32. Perak Lamed Bet, Pasuk Chaf Gimel. So it says, Vayakam b'laylahu, he got up on that night, V'yikach et shtei nashav, et shtei shifchotav, v'et achadasar yeladav. So he took his wives and his children, V'yavor et ma'avar yavok, and he crossed over the brook of Yabok. And it says that he crossed over the river. And then it says, Vayivater Yaakov levado, v'yavek ish imo ad alot hashachar. So this is the beginning of this archetypal confrontation. It says, and Yaakov was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of day. So the first thing that Rashi asks, if you follow this carefully, there's something missing here. There's something missing because it says he brought everyone, including himself, over the river, and then it says he was left alone. So it's like, wait a minute, there's something missing because he's with his wife and his children. So Rashi says exactly that. Rashi says what's missing here in the text, but we have the oral tradition, is he crossed back over. And Rashi, quoting the Gemara, tells us why. He forgot small vessels, and he went back to get them. So this is not so understandable. Yaakov is afraid for his life, his children, his wife. Everything's on the line here. And he goes back for small vessels? Not so easy to understand. So there are many, many different explanations, but we're going to jump right to one of the deepest to understand this. So in Rashi, these small vessels are called pachim ketanim. So pachim ketanim in numerical value equals 359. Which equals Satan, or better known in certain circles as Satan. 359 is Satan. So we're going to go back and we're going to understand these vessels because they're going to come up later in our class tonight. But what's the meaning here? He went back to get pachim ketanim, and this is the numerical value of Satan. So we're going to analyze who he is fighting with on 5 levels. And they are all true simultaneously. Yaakov there's a confrontation here on 5 different levels, and we're going to see that they correspond exactly with the 5 levels of soul. So we're told that we have 5 levels of soul. So on each level of soul, he is undergoing a battle for not only his life, physical and spiritual, but for the entire Jewish people until Mashiach comes. And I'll throw in the hint already that the numerical value for Mashiach is 358. And we're told that with any word you can add 1. So Mashiach, with its added 1, equals Satan. Equals meaning in direct correspondence. Side of light and the side of darkness. I mean, we all know in the last 30 years, I think probably the first one was Star Wars. But in the last 30, 35 years, there's been a umpteen movies using the theme of the forces of good versus the forces of darkness. Excuse me, forces of light versus the forces of darkness. The whole Tolkien trilogy and just who knows how many science fiction and novels and movies and so here this is the secret of this numerical equivalence. Now, usually we're told, we'll throw in another one, is Mashiach equals 358, which equals exactly Nachash, the snake, the primordial snake of the Garden of Eden. And we'll see later how that fits into here also. So here, when I started the class and I said this is a archetypal confrontation, this is exactly what I meant. This is the forces of Satan, forces of the primordial snake, and Yaakov here is representing Mashiach, and this is the battle that is happening. Okay, but let's go back and let's understand this on 5 different levels. So the lowest level of soul is called the nefesh, sometimes called the animal soul, the instinctual, intuitive, behavioristic level of the soul. And here, according to many different opinions, Yaakov is fighting with himself. That's the importance of saying that he was left alone. V'yavater Yaakov levado. Yaakov was left alone. Because not only did we have the question, how could he be alone if he's with his wife and his children? So Rashi helped us. He crossed back over. But if it says he's left alone, then how could there be a man to fight with him? Either he's alone or there's someone else there. So because of these subtle conflicting ideas in the simple understanding of the text, it actually allows us to understand this on a much deeper level. So on the nefesh level, Yaakov is fighting with his own insecurities, his own fears. I'll share with you that when I was writing the book on dreams, so I mentioned in the book that Yaakov was afraid because he's running away from Esav, and I don't mean any negativity here, But the person who was editing the book, who was a very, very, very nice person, a very capable editor, who came from a base Yaakov education, said you can't write that she was afraid, that he was afraid. I know. So that's what I answered. I said, but the text itself said he was afraid. Rashi says that's why he put the rocks around his head, because he was afraid of wild animals. And then she said, "Oh, okay." But the original reaction was, you can't say anything negative about any of the avot or imahot, because you're like on this pedestal. But if you look at the Gemara, no one is spared. Not Avram, not Yitzhak, not Yaakov, not Sarah, not Rivka, not Leah, not Rachel, not Moshe, not Eliyahu. No one is spared, because they're human beings. So Yaakov, it's clear from the text here, it says it over and over. Even when he prays to God, he says, I'm afraid of what my brother's going to do. So here on the level of nefesh, because a human being is also like an animal also is a nefesh, where an animal is programmed for survival and pleasure. And here Yaakov's life is literally on the line. Literally on the line. So he's fighting with his own insecurities. Why? Because he knows tomorrow morning he's going to meet Esav. He knows that Esav is tomorrow morning will appear at the camp. So the way I relate to this, because this has happened to me and I'm sure it's happened to everyone here, that sometime in our life we've made, let's say, a big decision, whether starting a new job, moving to a new city, starting college, moving to Israel, whatever it is. And obviously a lot of thought went into it and a lot of probably inner turmoil till we make the decision. But then we've made the decision and we made all the plans, and now it's the night before. Right? The next day, you're leaving, whatever you're going to do. And how many times, even though we've been planning for a year, we start to like, did I make the right decision? Am I really going to do this? Do I really have strength to do this? Is this the right thing? Has it happened to everyone here? Yeah. It's like, no? Okay. Oh, the year before. Okay. Okay. But so you experienced it the year before. Okay. So this is what Yaakov is experiencing. For 20 years, he's known that this confrontation is going to happen with Esav. It was just inevitable. And now it's the night before. So on the level of nefesh, he's fighting with his insecurities, his fears. Am I up for this? Do I deserve it? Am I worthy? Am I strong enough? What am I going to say to him? Etc., etc. So that's on the level of nefesh. Yeah, we could delve into it in greater depth, but on the level of ruach, that's the next level of soul. This is what's called the emotional component of a human being, ruach. So that's what the text means. Vayavek ish imo, a man wrestled with him. Who is the man? Esav. Because now it's not just that he's engaging his own inner turmoil, but now it's very focused on Esav. And going through his whole life history. Remember, this is not only his brother, it's his twin. Right? They were in the womb together. So he is, how did he get the name Yaakov? Because he's holding on to the heel of Esau. It's not like a casual relationship they have. His whole identity, and we know because a name in Hebrew is someone's identity. He's holding on to the heel of Esau. In other words, his whole life, his identity has been determined and colored by his relationship to Esau. And now he's going to meet him in the flesh the next day. So he is wrestling with Esau. That's his emotions. You can imagine how many emotions are swirling in his mind, his heart, his kishkas. You can imagine his kishkas are just turning over. The next level of soul, neshama. So the neshama is the intellectual component of a human being. And here's where Rashi comes in. Who does Rashi say he's fighting with? Not himself and not with Esau, but the angel of Esau. The prince of Esau. And we're told that each nation, each archetypal nation has a archangel that is connected to it. And so, why is this the intellectual battle he has now? Because he also realizes, while he's working through his most basic inner turmoil, and then his emotional battle with Esau, he realizes that this is more than a physical battle. This is a spiritual battle. So Rashi is letting us know that he's fighting with the spiritual force behind Esau. Even more than just Esau, the person in flesh and blood, but everything that Esau represents on a spiritual level. So this is telling us that this battle is not just a physical battle, it's also a spiritual battle. And we certainly know that in Israel today, that we fight physical wars, and we have physical enemies, but it should be clear to us that the battle is not just on the battlefield and with a physical enemy. There's a spiritual battle going on here. And who, according to the Midrash, is the angel of Esau? Satan. Satan. So on one level, when it says he went back to get small vessels, again, we're skipping over the simple, literal understanding of that. But he was going because he was purposely going to fight this battle before the next day. Because when he meets Esau the next day, and Yaakov wants to give him gifts, and Esau says, no, that's okay. And Yaakov is very insistent. Okay, so this is very, very important. Lamed Gimel, Yud, 33:10. So look what he says to him. So Esau says in the previous verse, he says, no, I have a lot. You keep what's yours. V'yomer Yaakov, al na imna matzatichem beinecha v'lakachta minchati miyadi. Says, please, if I have found grace in your eyes, take these gifts from me. Listen to this. Ki al kain ra'iti panecha Ki erot panei Elokim v'tirtzeni. He says to him, because I have seen your face. When? Last night. I have seen your face like one sees the face of God, and I was victorious. So in other words, he's saying to Esav the next day, you know and I know that the battle was fought last night. This is just the cleanup here. This is just the logistics. But you know and I know that the battle was fought last night. Okay, so this is how we understand what Rashi says from the Gemara. That was the angel of Esav. Then on the level of Chaya, so these first three, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, are what are